Remember Crystal Mason? Crystal
Yeah.
Mason is a black woman who served time in a federal prison for voting in 2016 while on supervised release. She cast a provisional ballot in Texas. She voted. She served time behind bars, but she was on supervised release, and she voted. And she served, I believe, 10 or 11 months in a federal prison in Texas. She's now facing 5 years in a state prison for voting in 2016 while on supervised release. I've had Crystal Mason on this show. I have had her lawyers on this show. I've rallied around this story. Really a heartbreaking, disgusting story, right? And she says she had no idea that she couldn't vote while on release, if you will, supervised release. Her vote wasn't even counted. She didn't sign anything, but there's still the state of Texas still gunning for the single mother, trying to get her behind bars for 5 years. And the demon Governor Abbott will not drop this case whatsoever. She's saying she didn't do anything wrong. She truly didn't know. She had no idea. So you hear a story like that because, voter fraud is this huge issue, right? Then you hear about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, who is the senator of South Carolina, who calls the Secretary of State in Georgia to reportedly imply, whatever the case may be, throw out some votes. I'm paraphrasing here. That's not what was said exactly. But that is really disturbing to me. I believe at minimum there should be an investigation. I don't understand why the senator of South Carolina is calling the Secretary of State in Georgia about votes. That doesn't make any sense. Imagine if Senator Cory Booker in Jersey called a senator Senator Gary P. or called the Secretary of State in Michigan to inquire about the votes and implied, kind of, sort of, not really, maybe a little bit, said, well, you should throw out some votes. There would be it would be an outrage. Senator Cory Booker would probably be thrown out of the Senate. So here we have a sitting senator, and I believe he's on the Senate Judiciary Committee, I believe.
Chairman
of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And I'm going to say it again. He is in South Carolina. He calls Georgia the Secretary of State.
I think it's important to say that a Republican senator.
A Republican
elected.
A Republican Secretary of State in Georgia. Georgia, where Gone with the Wind was placed. Georgia. Listen to the Secretary of State of Georgia explain how that call went down with Lindsey Graham.
What exactly did he say to you?
Well, he asked if the ballots could be matched back to the voters, and then I got the sense it implied that then you could throw those out. And he really would look at the counties with the highest frequent error of signatures. So that's the impression that I got. But we've got signature match in place. We have signature match when you request the ballot, absentee ballot, and then we have signature match when it comes in. And then with our new online absentee ballot portal, that has photo ID. And so we feel really confident that the election officials have done their job. And that's what they're charged to do, is do their job and make sure the signatures match.
I just want to be clear on this, Mr. Secretary. You say Senator Graham wanted you to find ways to get rid of legally cast ballots because CNN asked him about these allegations. He denied them. He says that's ridiculous. His words, that's ridiculous.
Well, it's just an implication that look hard and see how many ballots you could throw out.
Once again, that's Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. I'm sorry, Brad Raffensperger. Could be saying his name wrong. Yeah, that's very interesting to me. That's very interesting to me. That is an issue. That doesn't make any sense to me. This should be investigated. And we have other people like Crystal Mason behind bars for much less, who doesn't even have the power, or facing going back to jail, doesn't even have the power that Senator Lindsey Graham has. This is just disgusting to me. Alan, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I have a couple of thoughts on this. One, I'm from Georgia, and my family's in Georgia now, and I think this is super important. And I went to Morehouse, and Warren and I went to Morehouse. So putting all those things on the issue, none of those things really matter because it's unethical. There's absolutely no reason. There's no script. There's no history for a Republican to call another Republican to say, let me tell you about ways in which one might disqualify votes in high majority Democratic areas, the high populous areas, which are the cities, which is exactly what he said in the conversation. So, number one, at the very least, he should step down from being the chair of the Judiciary Committee because the call in itself is an implication of impropriety. That's just making the call. There's no reason to make the call. He doesn't know him, never called him before out of the blue. And because of the power structure of the party, it implies that he was trying to influence him in some way. So the Secretary of State is already trying to walk it back a little bit, saying, well, maybe I didn't understand. But there's no reason for them to even be having a conversation about votes that are actually open and during the process. This isn't after the election. This is actually during the point where they're doing a recount. So it's extremely problematic in that way. So there should be an ethical sort of issue that's open on him about making the phone call, which generally just leads to some kind of censor or slap on the hand. But there also should be a Department of Justice that is open to him about voter fraud, because this is a voter fraud, voter intimidation, sort of throwing away valid votes, right? So that's something that's sort of clear. And it should also set the tone for everybody in Georgia to once again remind them that they don't want to count the black votes. Whether they say it or they don't say it, they keep implying in every way that they have got to win this election in a very unfair playing world. So they're always saying this is unfair and that's unfair. But here is a clear case in open air, because as you said before, the Secretary of State is a Republican. He has no reason to lie. So the veracity of his first conversation regarding what was said probably is true, right? And even though he's trying to walk it back, saying now, remember when Senator Harris had the Department of Justice head, and he said, did you imply, did you confer, trying to say exactly what the implications were? This is exactly what that is, right? He called to make that inference that this is potentially what you could do to disqualify these votes to sort of change the column of Georgia. And it's very problematic. And it really hurts. And I hope this motivates people once again to go out and vote.
Absolutely. I hope that all these little stunts and tricks, it lets people know you have to go out there, you have to vote, because they're trying. They're trying. They're desperate. And they are truly terrified of Democrats getting a tie in the Senate. They are terrified of it. I just think this is, for me, y'all know me. If y'all been listening to my show, y'all know how important voting rights are to me. That's my number one issue above anything. Voting rights, voting rights, voting rights, because a candidate can have all the greatest plans in the world. If you can't vote for them, it doesn't really matter, right? So that's the number one issue for me. And this is huge, and there should be an investigation. I'm sure there won't be, but these are the things we can't forget. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, we're sure he's not going to step down. But for me, anytime someone says, and just this is legal, long years of practicing law, anytime someone says that's ridiculous, implies that there's some truth to the matter that they're responding to. Are you a racist? That's ridiculous. Did you beat your wife? That's ridiculous. In all of those cases where somebody immediately says this exaggeration of absolute certainty that it's ridiculous, implies to me that it's going to be a problem. So he probably won't step down. The question is, where is our democracy today? Because it's not about the former president anymore, right? It's not about 45. He's gone. We're looking forward. It's about the rest of those Republicans that were reelected and what they're going to do and what they're going to say around Lindsey Graham. It's about what South Carolina is going to say about their newly reappointed senator getting involved in this, how it makes the party look. How will the Republican Party stand? And how is the president going to stand and say, there's all this fraud going on, when here is where you basically got your hand caught in the cookie jar? Nothing really changed, right? I mean, I think that the state secretary did the right thing by, one, making it public, two, saying he couldn't change it if he wanted to, right? Bringing it out in the open to say, this happened, because I could see where it could come out later. But what it does to democracy in general is it makes you question the system, right? That's what it really makes you do, is wonder, what is the integrity of the system at this point if we have some random senator calling a Secretary of State saying this may be something you want to think about.
It sounds like something you hear out of The Godfather, out of some kind of mafia movie. Hey, make this happen. What does this really look like? You should just throw this out. That's what it sounds like. It doesn't make sense. But this is also the same person who defended the president of the United States, calling Ukraine to trying to get information on his opponent. So they have no morals. They have no values. They don't care about the Constitution like they claim they do. They only care about themselves. But again, I want you to think about Crystal Mason.
He told you that your vote counted. You can be all of these things with Mr. Lindsey Graham. As long as you're conservative, you can be black, you can be an immigrant. You're welcome to be all these things.
Exactly.
As long as you vote for the Republican Party, then that's
exactly.
Perfect.
Which is as long as you know your place. As long as you know your place. That's exactly what it is. So this should be an international story to me. Again, if Senator Cory Booker was calling the Secretary of State in Michigan, in any state in this country, if Senator Cory Booker called the Secretary of State in Georgia, they would be having a breakdown. And this is the other thing that I just talk about. It's just the double standards.